Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome back to my Euro Qualifier Predictions, where today we have round 9 to talk about, also known as the penultimate round of the qualifiers. And obviously, as there are so few games left, we are really at the stage of the competition where every single point matters. But of course, you guys know how it goes by now, we have a lot of games to talk about, so let me know in the comment section down below which nation you support, and yeah, put some flag emojis down there.
How do you do, fellow kids?
But of course, jumping into our first game of round 9, well, I mean, technically we've got round 8 and 7 because as we know, Israel didn't play in the last international break for reasons I'm not going to jump into right now. But of course, Israel do have to catch up, so they play against both Kosovo and Switzerland. Now I'm just going to smash this prediction out of the park straight away to get it over with. I do think that they will beat Kosovo. I'm going to go 1-0, but they will lose to Switzerland 3-0. I'm saying that purely because I do think Israel have a good team at the moment. I do think they are definitely better than Kosovo in both attack and defense.
I don't know. I think that's a bit dodgy, mate.
But I think the exact opposite versus Switzerland. And I mean, even if you look at the table, they are above Kosovo, but they are below Switzerland. And I kind of think that's going to determine things. But of course, now that I've given you that little bonus prediction there, officially jumping to round 10, we have Azerbaijan versus Sweden. Now, I don't think it should be too much of a surprise. I think Sweden are the better team here. I think it would be criminal if this team didn't eventually qualify for something, at least. I mean, I've just watched the game for Manchester United where Lindelof scored versus Luton. Obviously, you've got Elanga, Isak, Kulusevski, so many talented players. And versus Azerbaijan, they should get at least a 3-0 win here. Now, we do have Bulgaria versus Hungary next. Once again, I would like to say it's going to be a close one, but I've got a very strong favourite. It is bottom of the group versus top of the group. I think Hungary will take this one 2-0, as they've got a fantastic team at the moment, and they've proven time in and time out that they can deliver results here. Now, Georgia versus Scotland, and talking about delivering results, what a game this could be. As we know, Scotland have only lost one game so far in qualifiers, and they've done exceptionally well, especially with R9 Ronaldo up front. Oh, sorry, I meant Scott McTominay in the midfield.
We're not so different, you and I.
I mean, I really can't fault Scotland. I think they've been absolutely brilliant. And although I would like to see something from Georgia here, I think ultimately Scotland should take this one. I'm going to go 2-1. Now, Estonia versus Austria is next, and I do think Austria will take this one. I'm going to say 3-0, purely because, I mean, under Rolf Rangnick, the camaraderie, I would say, of this team has been absolutely brilliant.
You all laughed at me. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
They've really done well as a team. I think that they pretty much are set to qualify over Sweden in their group. I think in terms of overall play style, they've been absolutely phenomenal. And versus a nation like Estonia, I'd be surprised if they lost points. Now, of course, Cyprus versus Spain is next, and once again, fairly easy prediction for me. Looking at Spain, they should win this one. I'm going to say 4-0, maybe even 5-0, but I'll stick with 4-0. As we know, some of the best talent in world football at the moment. Whereas Cyprus, I mean, I hate to say it, but they aren't a giant footballing nation.
Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry.
So at the end of the day, Spain shouldn't have any problems here, and it should be a 4-0 win. Now, Montenegro versus Lithuania is next, and could be a very close one. I think looking at Montenegro, they have scored less goals than Lithuania, but their defense has been far stronger, so it's difficult to kind of compare these two teams. I do think at the end of the day, Montenegro will just take this one, and due to their defensive ability, it will be a 1-0 win. Now, I mean, going from kind of a conservative game, if you would like to call it that, to a game that could be an absolute baller. We have Liechtenstein versus Portugal.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Now looking at Portugal, if they didn't win this one at least 6-0, I would be surprised. I would go far enough to argue that Portugal have been the best team in qualifiers so far. Defensively, they've been an absolute brick wall, letting in pretty much nothing at this point. Looking at their attack, they are scoring for absolute fun. Really, they are doing exceptionally well. And as I said, versus Liechtenstein, I'm sorry, but I don't really like your chances here. Now, looking at the next game, it is Luxembourg versus Bosnia. And this might come across as a tiny bit of a surprise, but I'm going to say Bosnia 1-0 here. Now, the reason I'm saying it might be a surprise is Luxembourg is 2 places higher in their group than Bosnia, but saying that it's only about 2 points higher than Bosnia at the moment.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
But I do think Bosnia have a better team at the moment. No, maybe the results haven't gone their way, but I just feel like something will click here, and I just feel like they'll switch on. Now, Slovakia versus Iceland is next, and once again, relatively easy. I think Slovakia have been really decent in their group. I really can't fault them too much. Versus a nation like Iceland, who, yes, have had one or two good games so far in qualifiers. Ultimately, I do think there's a vast difference here, and Slovakia should take it 2-0. Now, Kazakhstan versus San Marino is next, and I'd hate to, what's the word I'm going to use? Piss on San Marino?
What's wrong with you?
I can't think of a more appropriate word in this case, because looking at San Marino, I'm pretty sure they've just scored their first competitive goal in about 3 years, have never had a competitive win, and versus Kazakhstan, who at a stage looked like they could have topped this group, I do think Kazakhstan are the strong favourites here, and they should at least win this one 2-0, and we'll wait another 4 or 5 years for San Marino to score once again.
This is football heritage.
Now, Finland versus Northern Ireland is next, and this has potential to be close. Obviously, as we know, future Ballon d'Or winner Johnny Evans has picked up an injury, unfortunately, but I do think ultimately Finland were the favourites anyway. I think they've been slightly better in this group. I think they've been much more convincing. I know although they are just above Northern Ireland in the group, ultimately far better performances, and that points gap really does prove it. Now, Moldova versus Albania is next, and another relatively easy one for me, because although looking at Moldova, yes, they did well when they played against Poland, ultimately Albania is top of a group that I really did underestimate them in. It is a very tricky group, and I think Albania can be super proud of themselves, and because of that, I'm going to give them a 3-0 win here. I think that's fair enough. Now, Italy versus North Macedonia is next. Now, I'm sorry to all the Italians for the PTSD you might have. But ultimately, I do think once again, in the Euros, I would be surprised if Italy weren't, well, obviously the strong favourites heading into this. And they should win this one, 2-0, 3-0. Now, going from one big game to potentially another one in terms of results, we have England versus Malta, and it should be England 5-0. I know that sounds like a boring result, and maybe that's a perfect way to describe anything that involves Gareth Southgate.
He has to go, blood.
But obviously, although, yes, he left some major players out of the squad, I mean, he finally picked the likes of Tomori, and I'm so excited to see what he can do for England. I still think England obviously have enough quality, even with the players they left out, and Malta bottom of the group. As we know, England, once again, they are just a whole different level of a team. They almost turned into like the Galacticos when it comes to any kind of qualifier campaign, where when it comes to the tournaments, sometimes they can be a tiny bit, well, maybe a bit Arsenal. They can look good, but they can also bottle things.
He has to go, blood. And
Now, next up, we have Poland versus Czechoslovakia, or Czech Republic, should I say. And looking at Poland, once again, they've been very underwhelming in qualifiers so far, where Czech Republic have looked a whole lot better. And because of that, I'm going to give Czech Republic a 2-1 win. Now Denmark versus Slovenia is next, and this is gigantic for their group because as we know, Slovenia currently in first place, but if Denmark win, they do go above them, and I feel like this will be a decider of who wins their group. Obviously Slovenia have been super good. Denmark have been slightly underwhelming. I think that does go down to the fact that they lost to Kazakhstan earlier on in the group stage, but ultimately I do think Denmark should still be a better footballing nation. Rasmus Højlund has been very good for them. As a Manchester United fan, it does break me just a tiny bit.
Don't give me hope.
But ultimately, they should win this one. I'm going to say 2-1. Now, Armenia versus Wales is next, and Wales have been a lot better than I thought they would be in qualifiers. Yes, they've definitely struggled without Gareth Bale, and I do think Armenia could give them a run for their money, but ultimately, I just have a feeling they're going to switch on the attacking front here. They are currently ahead of Croatia in their group, which is a tiny bit surprising, but I do think Wales will win this one. I'm going to say 3-1. Now, Belarus versus Andorra is next, and I think both of these two teams are very close in their group. I don't feel like there's a lot separating them in terms of total overall ability, and although I could go for a 2-1 win here for either of these two nations, I feel like a 1-1 draw is the most fair result. Now, talking about the devil, and he shall appear, we have Latvia versus Croatia, and as I said, Croatia maybe not performing nearly as well as I thought they would here, and it would be an absolute shock if Croatia, the nation that keeps on getting into like the final four of every single competition, didn't even qualify for the Euro.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
This is a must-win game for them. And versus bottom of the group Latvia, I would be surprised if it wasn't at least a 3-0 win. Now, heading into some of our final games, which as I said, don't forget, if you have enjoyed, do subscribe down below. We have Netherlands versus Ireland. And although I love the youth of Ireland, maybe I shouldn't say that.
What do you mean by that?
I do think Netherlands, once again, strong favourites here. Although it was close last time around, Netherlands should take this one 3-1. Obviously, look at France Gibraltar. I do think, once again, to no surprise, it is a strong favourite.
He was talking to me. No, he was talking to me.
And it's not Gibraltar. I do think France should win this one 4-0. They just have way too much talent, and I shouldn't really have to justify it. Looking at Switzerland versus Kosovo in our second final game of this round. Once again, Switzerland by far the favourite team, and they've done really well for majority of this group. I think it was just the last international break they fumbled a bit. But versus Kosovo, once again, from defence to attack, they should take this one. I'm going to say 3-0. But of course, that does take us to our final game of this round with Israel versus Romania. And looking at Israel, yes, they've definitely had some moments so far in this group stage. I really feel like they could take from Romania. But currently top of their group, even ahead of Switzerland, Romania have been fantastic, and I have to back them with a 2-1 win here. But of course, that is it for our final game, or all of the games, I guess, for round 9 of the Euro qualifiers. Obviously, if you disagree with anything I said, let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, do subscribe if you did enjoy, and leave a like down below. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. But of course, Finn, FYNN, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Bye.